Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Valerie Robbins. I'm the Assistant Director of Student and Industry Connections. I'd love to welcome you to Don't Stop Believing Animation Career Trek with DNEG. I'm just going to briefly have an introduction, talk a little bit about why we're here today, but also introduce my colleague, Basanti. This is the last day, the second to last day of our Your Network, Your Narrative series, a brand new 2-week career experience designed to help you discover career paths, build your network, and hear directly from industry professionals. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Basanti, who's going to share the last event. Go ahead, Basanti.
Thank you so much, Valerie. Hi, everyone. My name is Basanti Miller. I'm also Assistant Director of Student and Industry Connections. I'm going to put a couple of things into the chat. We've got another amazing virtual workshop happening tomorrow to close out Your Network, Your Narrative. It is called Creating Demand for Your Talent as a Freelancer with Lynn Hazan. And it is going to be from 12 to 1 virtually. You can click on that link and register now. And Valerie and I have been working hard with our team to put together another virtual resource, which is our virtual freelance toolkit. So this is something that you can look at now, use throughout your time, even after you graduated, and we'll continue to make updates on it. Back to you, Valerie.
Thank you so much, Basanti. Just a few housekeeping notes. Please keep your camera on. We love to see your wonderful faces, but if not, we completely understand. Keep your mics muted unless myself, Basanti, or Dara and Ken ask you to unmute. You can drop your questions into the chat. We will be answering those questions towards the end, but we'll try our best to get to as many questions as we can. Without further ado, Dara, Ken, take it away.
Hello, everybody. Hi, thank you so much for joining us today. We're absolutely delighted to be here all the way from a very sunny London. So it's kind of the end of our day here. And we are just going to dive in to tell you about DNEG Animation and what that studio is all about. And then we're going to tell you a little bit about our careers and our career journeys, what that looks like, and how you can start your career in animation. Okay, so first off, let's introduce ourselves. Who are these people? Well, I am, oh yes, can we, yes. There we go. There we go. Hi. We just wanted to show you our room because we're really excited about this room because it's got our movie posters in it. So, but now you can look at us, look at our faces. So I'm Dara McGarry, and I lived in Chicago for 8 years, the 80s and 90s, and I'm in London now. I went from Chicago from a career in stand-up and comedy and theater to LA, to working at Disney Animation for 14 years, and then to London, where I've been working with DNEG for going on 16 years now.
Yes.
Oh, and absolutely loving it. And my job is in outreach. So I work with emerging talent and universities and going on the road and talking to people like this with my good friend, Ken Fountain.
Hello, I'm Ken Fountain. I'm an animation supervisor at DNEG Animation. I'll explain kind of what that is later in the talk, but I'm a Chicago native. So we love that this coincidentally is us doing this talk because it's really nice to talk to people that are from Chicago. And just let you know about, I've been an animator since, I don't know, since the early 2000s. So just shy of 20 years around. Before that, I was doing tons of other things in Chicago I'll tell you about. And I've been here at DNEG for 5 years through 5 pictures.
That's very exciting. And they're the good pictures.
Yes, lots of work.
Okay, well, this talk really, the reason we called it Don't Stop Believing is because we want to tell you how to make the most of your career and your passions and turning those into a career. And it's fun, it's exciting. We love doing it, but there are a lot of times when you got to really rely on that passion and don't stop believing.
Yep.
And we just like the song.
I'm telling you, he's gonna be singing it for like 2 days.
So let's talk about DNEG Animation, and we'll introduce the company. DNEG Animation grew out of Double Negative Visual Effects, which is a boutique studio in London that's been around for over 20 years, doing things like Chris Nolan movies, and we won our first Oscar for Inception for visual effects, and we've done a lot of the Harry Potter films. And then they decided 11 years ago to start an animation division, and we've been doing some pretty cool stuff since then. Where do we do it? Well, the offices, and I'll be super clear, this is for the animation production, are in these cities: Montreal, London, and Mumbai. And also I need to add up there, not Singapore, Sydney.
Sydney.
Sorry,
Yeah.
not Singapore. No, Sydney, Australia is our newest addition to the family.
Yeah.
Now, games and visual effects do have other locations in other cities around the world, but we're not going to talk about that today. That's another talk for another day. So our very first film was Ron's Gone Wrong. Yes, we did a little short called Mr. Spam Gets a New Hat. It was kind of a trial in real-time engine, but Ron's Gone Wrong was our first feature. And then we did Intergalactic with Kid Cudi, film Under the Boardwalk, a musical with crabs, and a film that's very, very, very dear to us, Nimona, which was nominated for an Academy Award. So we loved working on that film. We also have done Garfield, That Christmas, which came out last Christmas.
Yeah.
It was last Christmas.
Woo.
And then our next show is Cat in the Hat is the next one. I have to wait all the way to November to see that one. And Angry Birds 3 should be out in December, right after that. And then Bad Fairies will be in next year, which is a musical written by the team that did the music to Six, the musical. So it's going to be super fun. We also have about 4 other productions in progress, but shh, can't talk about it.
We're busy.
Yeah, so we got a lot of work. We started when we started the feature animation division with our president, Tom Jacob, he insisted that we're going to start out and we are going to make good films with good people. And that is the ethos that is the foundation of everything we do. And we like to choose really, really good stories. And we like to choose really, really good people and really fun people like us to make the films with. So that's why we do what we do. So let's have a look at our work.
Let's go, people, let's go! 3, 2, 1.
A long, long time ago, a kingdom lived in peace.
Look at this place, Anemone. The sun is shining. Everybody's out there having fun, socializing.
That's to say, we were living the dream.
This is it. It's what I imagined when I was his age. They're having fun.
This place is pretty amazing. Yeah, do you like it? I thought a visual aid would really embarrass me. Pop! But if you want a happily ever after, you can never let your guard down.
You're about to hear the tale of one of the most challenging nights of my long career. And here are our fortunate heroes.
My name is Barney.
I'm Nimona.
Jabari.
Nice to meet you, Jabari.
There's a new kid in town, Danny, trying hard not to be seen.
The truth is, I've been hiding in my shell my entire life.
I did not fit in.
Who cares? Neither do I. It doesn't matter. Because you are my friend.
Maybe those tinkles are telling you to look out, because this could be something good.
Oh, I like where this is going.
You want to show him?
I'd love to.
Let's break stuff.
Unclench your mustache. What's the worst that could happen?
We need to destroy it.
Let's run. Just you and me.
But in that darkest hour, the hero rose up.
And you think you can battle these villains on your own?
Oh yeah, I have a plan.
Chaos, destruction, something, we win!
What could possibly go wrong? This is the part where you run.
Mission accomplished.
Turns out it's a rather remarkable community, where the only gift they ever really needed was each other.
I haven't seen that
Oh,
cut.
isn't it sweet?
That's good.
Oh, so that's what we do. Wow, what an exciting career. So, what's it like being an animator? I think I want to hear the story from Ken.
So that's my cue. So the story, the story I want to tell you veers outside of DNEG here for a bit, but I am like I said, I'm an animator of around 20 years now. Wasn't an animator my whole adult life, but I've it's weird to think that I've already spent a good chunk of it being one. I've gotten to work for a lot of really great studios, you know, some of the biggest in the world, making some of the biggest movies in the world, as well as some of the smallest, you know, little startups, making some experimental things, and then doing projects on my own as an independent artist or as a freelancer. So it's been a really, really wild ride. Those studios, oh, sorry, but just going back to that, actually, let me pop back to this really quick. So these, there they are. So studios I have worked for in my career so far have been, I started off working at Calabash Animation in Chicago. I've worked at DreamWorks. I've worked at Blue Sky. I've worked for a bunch of kind of effects companies, rodeo effects, and oh, they were all up in Canada. Now I'm blanking because I was freelancing for a time, but Agora and Little Zoo, who do a lot of freelancing stuff. And then ended up working in VR and working in, I just worked across a bunch of mediums. It's just been really, really fun ride. But it really wasn't this straight line to get there. I mean, even just those kinds of studios weren't a straight line. I mean, and you can attest to that, like you said.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you're like, oh, 14 years on, all of a sudden I'm at someplace different. I was just a theater kid, you know, like my life, I wanted to be on stage. I spent all of my childhood and my teens performing with various companies. Even into my 20s, I kept doing community theater. It's really what I wanted to do. And I did, I even worked at my local Renaissance Fair. In fact, what is now Bristol Renaissance Fair, that you guys would know, used to be King Richard's Fair in my day. Do you
Yes,
remember that? Yeah. King Richard's Fair. So I worked there for the last 5 seasons of its existence. And as a cast member, the scenario cast, I learned so many things from so many great people, including, improvisational acting, dialects, theatrical sword fighting, juggling, whatever it was. I learned tons and tons of stuff and got to practice being an actor in outdoor theater. So that was really, really great. Simultaneously, though, at that time, I was sort of discovering myself as a musician. I was a part of a band that I joined in high school called Birds at the End of the Road. We played together for about 11 or 12 years in Chicago and across the country. We would drive around the country and play as well, but Chicago was our base. It was our home. We used to play Elbow Room.
Elbow Room, where I did stand up.
Yeah. Funny.
How wild is that?
We always talk about like our common hangouts. Elbow Room, I think, is the book room or something now. I know they sold it. But anyway, it's a great club. But, Double Door, which isn't open anymore. Avalon, which isn't open anymore. In fact, if he is in attendance today, I cannot see a list of people, but one of my oldest friends, Roger Jansen, who runs your DePaul music label and the music business, it runs those classes. It was our first band manager. He's one of my oldest friends. We came up in the music business together, did a ton of stuff. So it's one of the people I admire the most. You guys are so lucky to have him. No, seriously. So that's I got infected by that, and it sort of took over my life, and I've decided this is what I'm going to pursue. So Birds at the End of the Road, we played for about 11 years. I had another band after that called Red Elephant. We also got signed to a small label. We would also drive around and play. We recorded an album that we released. I spent, again, almost 20 years from age 15 to my early 30s wanting to be a rock star. I had no idea of animation in my head. So it was, of course I had to make money when I was doing that. So I spent a lot of time bartending at said seedy clubs. And at a few corporate restaurants at the same time. But I wasn't this kind of bartender like I did, I was the behind the bar at the Elbow Room or wherever. And one of the things that being a bartender gave me that I look back on now, and I think we can all say that, people that have worked in clubs, like you get to know this variety of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you record those people and you take those skills at being with those people in your life for one, but you also, as an animator, I realized how much I learned from being at that vantage point and just seeing crazy bars wrapped 5 deep on a Friday night, but being every single one of those people is a different personality. It's fascinating. As a musician, though, I needed to produce artwork for my band. And then I started producing artwork for other bands and for nightclubs like House of Blues, like the Elbow Room, and music festivals like Mob Fest, which was a big music festival that Roger Jansen founded and ran, and did things for record labels, for Aware Records and Columbia Records, and it just became this thing. So I decided, well, if it's a thing, I'm going to make a business out of it. And my guitar player and I at the time had a graphic design studio for years. And again, by osmosis, just learning design principles and learning movement in drawings and things like that, it just became a great education. So here's the connection. So what did I say? It's like the late 90s, I guess, when websites started to really become, so of course, as a graphic designer, you have to design websites. Flash was this new thing. And all of a sudden, my band, Red Elephant, had to have a website. And I realized, wait a minute, I can animate our little logo. Let's try it. I couldn't find the actual file. It's been killing me that I can't find it. So I only had leftover stills, but I did this little animation in Flash, and I was like, this is so fun. So at the time, this was the spark. At the time, the saxophone player in Red Elephant, my second band, said, "Hey, I've got this idea from college that I never made, this animated film. Do you want to try it?" And it was like this little thing about like the garbage on the streets in the city that you know, in the sewer system formed this little society, and they kind of origami fold themselves into living beings. And so I was like, yeah, let me try animating that. And just in Flash, you know, we would put little backgrounds in and just do some line art. And I was like, I know I'd never tried this before in my whole life, but knew how it worked, you know, knew the basic principles of it. I'd watched DVD extras of people, you know, doing stuff. I love those Disney ones and stuff.
Yeah.
So I know how to do it. So my mind changed. I was like, okay, I'm 33 years old, or however I was. I'm going to fire all my, not fire them. I'm going to tell my design clients, I don't want to do design anymore. I'm going to do only animation. And I dove into it, learning Toon Boom. Like this was one of the first animations I just did on Toon Boom that became like this. I was like, well, I'll just make a promo spot for my company that I'm going to form. And then that company was, it doesn't show the logo. Anyway, Splat Frog was the company. And I managed to just kind of milk this, you know, in a few different projects. Did a traditional one where I built a light table and did hand-drawn animation and like taped a pegboard to my scanner and put individual pieces of paper on there and scanned them all, and you know, and did the line art in Photoshop. And so, you know, this became this obsession essentially. I was starting to get commissions to do videos for artists like this one, which is a Flash video. But of course, CG animation was on the horizon, well, very much in the market. So I had to learn it. So I picked up the free version of Maya, taught myself how to model things, how to rig things, because I wanted to animate. So I was sort of on the way, and I got one of my first real CG animation jobs at Calabash Animation in Chicago, a company that I had gone to months, maybe a year earlier, and said, "Hey, I think I want to be an animator. Do you mind giving me like half an hour and just talking to me?" And the owners gave me more than that and sat and just said, "Here's what you need to do." And that's why I sort of obsessed and learned how to do it. I ended up getting my first job with them, my first CG job. And I think they're still kicking it. They're still in Chicago doing great. But my skills were, you know, they were okay. I wanted to be a character animator. So around then, this was around 2005, Animation Mentor came online. It was totally brand new. It was a bunch of Disney guys, a bunch of Pixar guys, a bunch of DreamWorks people. They were all the teachers. I was like, if I don't do this, and at the time it was really expensive, but I just was like, I want to do this. And I got crash courses in character animation. And this is the reel that I created from this was after 4 classes in Animation Mentor. This is the reel I had come up with. And this is the reel that got me my first job.
You've already made up your mind about this, haven't you?
Oh, you're right, Liz. I should go for it.
You're not even listening, are you? Poop. Monkey butt.
No, you're a good friend. And thank you.
Tell you what I do like, though. A killer. A dyed-in-the-wool killer. Cold-blooded, clean, methodical, and thorough. Now, a real killer, when he picked up the ZF-1, would have immediately asked about the little red button on the bottom of the gun.
stars above that shine so bright, the mystery of that fading light that shines upon our caravan. Won't you sleep?
And just as a, as a little shout out, that's of course Andrew Bird is the musician in that thing,
Yeah.
another Chicago native.
Yeah.
One of our fellow 90s musicians. Well, he's still playing. Anyway, that first job was DreamWorks Animation. I was actually working at Calabash Animation. I'm sorry, that was my first big studio job. I was working at Calabash Animation, got the call based on that reel. They said, hey, you know, we got your reel. We want to offer you a job. Do you want it? You know, basically, it seemed very stark. And I was like, because my whole life was going to change at that point. I was going to have to pack up and move to Burbank. But it was the greatest choice I had ever made because the trajectory of my life has changed since then. I started out on Monsters vs. Aliens. I got to work on Shrek 4, part of the Shrek franchise. I got to work part of the Kung Fu Panda franchise, part of the Dragons franchise. I got to touch a bunch of really great movies. Just as an anecdote, my first set of production shots was the President of the United States keyboard scene, and where he plays to Axel F to the Beverly Hills Cop theme. It freaked me out. I'm like, you're trusting me with these shots? But my supervisor said, I know you're a musician. I know you know what this looks like. So that's why I want you to do it. And that trust has stayed with me, because of life experience, you can get trust like that. So it was a real, it was a great experience. I spent 4 years there. I got to work on, 6+ movies while I was there. And I have friends that I've taken with me throughout my career. In fact, anyway, why I work here is because of DreamWorks. So I left, just real quick aside, I left DreamWorks after my 4-year contract was up because I was just feeling restless. I wanted to do something independent. I had an idea that I wanted to kind of create educational animation. So I moved to the East Coast because I fell in love and I got married. So that's a whole different story. But I came back to my friends in Chicago and I said, hey, you guys want to help me do this? And we put together a couple of different titles under the Crackerbox label. One was a geography app. One was about computers called Wizard in Your Machine, about the innards, the workings of a computer. The first one, GeoMe, which was called, we recorded an entire soundtrack for all the songs at a studio in Chicago, my friend's studio in Chicago. We did all the coding there. I mean, it did really well in the App Store, and I got to animate all this fun 2D animation. It became very, very expensive and ran its course. But something else, I got word of something else going on, which was I read an article that the Peanuts movie was being produced at Blue Sky. And I mean, who isn't like a huge Peanuts fan? So one of my former teachers was a supervisor there. I emailed him and said, I will do anything to be on this movie. I will be a grunt. I don't care. I just want a piece of this movie. And I got to come get a piece of that movie. Yeah. So anyway, I was there for six months or so, helping them crunch through, finish it off. I got to animate, some of characters. They got to animate characters that were iconic in my life, and I'm sure everybody's life still. Animating Snoopy was one of the joys of my life. But that contract was over, and a bunch of friends of mine I got word, but some DreamWorks friends, again, the networking of people, were working at Google on these spotlight stories, which, if you maybe recall, they were things that they were animated things, interactive things you would watch on your phone, and your phone was like the camera. And this was one called Pearl that was directed by Patrick Osborne, who won the Oscar 2 years earlier, I think it was, for his short film, his Disney short film, Feast. So I was very excited to work with him and be on the team. Came on the team. I got to do a bunch of animation for this really experimental animation. It ended up getting nominated for an Oscar. It was one of the first. It was a milestone because it was an interactive piece, and here it is getting Oscar not only shortlisted, but nominated. It was really, really a proud moment. And it made me fall in love with this new thing called virtual reality. Another company that was founded by Eric Darnell, who was the director of all the Madagascar movies. He was forming it with 2 other partners because they wanted to do fully immersive, fully interactive, virtual reality short film animation. And I was like, sign me up. Like, I am so into this, because we were exploring the technical side of it, the interactive side of it, but everything had to have a sense of empathy, because you're right there. I will tell you, when I did Pearl and I got to sit next to a character I had animated for the first time, I mean, I cried. It was so, I mean, it's unbelievable what that feels like. So here I was, I got to do 3 different projects there. These were all nominated, if not won the Emmys. They were like the daytime special project Emmys that year. And they, 2 of them won the Annie Award for Best Interactive that year. We were very, very proud of it. It's too early on the market. We all got laid off because you couldn't make money. But it was really, really fun.
Yeah.
So layoffs are usually fortunate, because people hear about people getting, when studios lay people off, the industry gets alarm bells. They know about it, and studios come looking. Well, my friend Ted, who is the head of animation here at DNEG,
Someone must buy.
Who's head of animation here at DNEG, called me up immediately and said, "Hey, do you want to move to Montreal and work and be an animation supervisor over here on our this kind of, like, we're just starting, we're just growing." And I was like, "No, Montreal's cold." Yeah, so, but I did. Moved up to Montreal. I was there for 2 years, and I got to, and then I eventually moved here, and I've been here for 2.5, almost 3 years. Got to work on Intergalactic, like you talked about. Got to work on Nimona. We love Nimona. That Christmas was is a show that here in the UK, do people like freak out over that?
Yes.
In the UK, I know.
Yeah. Like all the kids I know, my friends' kids want the little nice
little pin.
badge. Yeah. It's a big deal with the kids.
Yeah, because it's written by Richard Curtis, who is Notting Hill and Love Actually and all these people's favorite movie. He's like a god here in the UK.
Yeah.
So that was really a proud moment to work on that. And we finished Cat in the Hat. We're gonna be releasing that. So yeah, some different styles of animation, from stepped to just kind of more traditional but pushed stuff in Nimona. Being really, really proud of being award nominated. But one of the cool things about Nimona is I got to use my theatrical sword fighting training all the way back from the Renaissance Fair in Chicago to choreograph the fight scenes in Nimona. Yeah. I was like, I get to use it. Yeah. So anyway, and that Christmas, we talked about these. So that's that. And maybe you can attest to this too, Dara. The reason I wanted to, wasn't just to tell you the story to be like, hey, look at all the cool stuff on my reel. It's about that a path to get somewhere is never straight.
Yeah. Everybody thinks it's just linear, and it just isn't.
No.
It's never linear. It's about taking opportunities.
Right.
When you least expect it. Like, you might think, oh, I've been laid off, but I've got to find another job here. Right. Like, I've got to do this thing that I'm doing here. And then something comes up, an opportunity happens, maybe it's a bit different or in a different location. Yeah. And you got to be open to these things, because that's where the gold is.
Yeah, it is. You just kind of got to say yes more often, because, like I said, immediately Montreal, I was like, duh. Anyway, okay, I will learn to speak French. and it was great. I'm so glad I made that decision. So I mean, anyway, that's my path. I'm sure you guys have interesting ones too.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's I think it's so fascinating. And like Ken, I started in the animation industry when I was in my 30s as well, because after Chicago, I moved to LA and for acting, to continue the acting and the comedy thing. but I needed a day job. So I signed up at a temp agency, and my first temp job was at Disney Animation as a production assistant. And I
like,
thought,
well,
this is fun. I was like, no, I know. And then I was going on auditions and they weren't fun. I was not enjoying that. And the actors were very backstabby. And I thought, the boxes that I'm looking for, the list of things that I want to do with my life, those boxes are getting ticked off at Disney in animation, not in the acting right now in my life. So I ended up taking the job at Disney, and then I did improv in the evenings.
Right.
And still do a little bit of
you can still
acting.
do all the things you do.
Yeah. And that was almost 30 years ago. So it worked out okay.
I think so.
Yeah. But again, like in a circuitous way.
Yeah,
like not in the way that I thought.
said yes to some things.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's things that you obsess over. Like, it's okay to obsess over things. It's probably if you're in university right now, you are probably needing to obsess on your studies. But we all have things that we're like, I would do this even if they didn't pay me.
Yeah. Yes.
Do those things.
The things that you're really passionate about.
Yes.
So these are all beautiful stories. And now you know where we've been, but how do you get there? So let's talk about how you could get started with a career in animation. So my slides are not nearly as beautiful as yours. I just like ours
So they
are
do some
very
interpretive dance.
ours are very, very corporate. And also I'm going to turn a bit of center. So these are our corporate branded slides. So ways to get into the industry. So here's 5 typical ways that you can get your first job. Many studios have runner programs and internships, but here's the tricky part. They're not consistent. So it really depends on what the studio is doing, how many projects they have, how busy they are. Recently, the number of runners depends on the number of people that work in the office. Because so many people work at home, and if there's no one in the office, then you don't need a runner. So it's changing, which means you simply need to be asking the questions a lot. So if you have studios that you really want to work at, then you need to find them on LinkedIn. See the little blue thing here, LinkedIn, online presence. Find them, connect with the people who work there, and find out if they have runner programs and internships. It should be posted on their jobs page or their careers page. So all studios right now are very, very good about keeping those websites up to date. If they're not up to date, I wouldn't necessarily be wary, but that tells me that this studio is not concerned about their online or social media presence. So they might be very, very small. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It might be, 5 people working in a living room, but that could be a great opportunity. So it gives you a clue as to what's going on there. So that's one way. It's very typical ways to get in as a runner. Now there's also networking and events. This is a networking event. You're meeting us now virtually. So you can find us on LinkedIn and LinkedIn with us and say, hey, I liked your presentation. I wanted to ask you a question. And we will answer your question. And lots of people do that. I love to hear from students that I meet at conferences, and they'll let me know, hey, I got my first job. I'm so excited. And a couple of years later, I might hear like, oh, I made it to lead position.
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
It's really, it's sweet. It's like my children. So it's very nice. I like hearing from people. So when we can, we always will interface and ask questions because we love what we do and we like sharing that. You'll meet people at the networking events. You can meet them face to face, which is always a bit better. You can have a better chat, not just one-line sentences on a chat box. But the events, I'm trying to remember. SIGGRAPH is a big one in America. SIGGRAPH.
Lightbox.
Lightbox, yeah, Lightbox is huge.
CTN is still around.
Yeah, CTN's it. Both of those, Lightbox and CTN are in LA.
Yep.
SIGGRAPH moves around a bit. And I'm trying to know if there's anything in Chicago. I know there must be.
Yeah, there are. I mean, there are local events a lot
Yeah.
too that bring in people. Yeah.
So there will be places. So find those and gravitate towards those. For example, London has a local SIGGRAPH event called Bring Your Own Animation, where roughly once a month, animators, it doesn't have to just be animators, it could be character designers, viz dev, they come into a pub and everybody shares their work with each other, and just to get feedback and meet other people. So it's a great time. And then people will tell, oh, I heard about this job. You'd be great for that. And so it's a great way to network, because the better your network is, then the more support systems you will have throughout your career.
There are also like meetup-y things like drink and draws
Yeah.
and things like that
Yeah.
happen all over the place.
Yeah.
Chicago and London and everywhere.
Everywhere, drink and draw, sip and paint.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. You just network.
It's all around alcohol. So then mentors or referrals. So once you start meeting people through LinkedIn or through your events, then you're going to find people that whose work you really respect and appreciate. And you can just ask if they would give you feedback on your work, or if they would give you some tips on how to make it better. Again, we love what we do, so we love giving this kind of feedback. And don't be afraid to approach your heroes through LinkedIn and just ask them. The worst that's going to happen is they won't get back to you because they're busy and they don't check LinkedIn. And it's nothing personal. But if you don't write to them, you'll never know. They will never write you back if you don't initiate the conversation. So then finally you apply for jobs. There are a lot of jobs out there. So, and it's the same logic. If you are concerned when you read an application that maybe you don't have all of the qualifications, you've got 60% of them, but not quite. I don't know, they'll never give me the job. Oh, I'm not going to apply. Well, one thing is for sure, if you don't apply, you're not going to get the job. You got to get in it to win it. So just apply. The worst that's going to happen is you won't get it. But even then, the recruiters will know who you are. And there's every chance that they'll say, well, like this person's not right for this job, or the timing doesn't work, or the job went away. But I really like this reel. I'm gonna remember this one because we'll be hiring again, and I'm gonna make sure. I had back when we had reels on DVDs on physical media, I had a DVD on my desk of a build supervisor. His reel was so fun. It was really good, and it made me laugh. It was just really cute. And I thought, one day, it was my mission. I'm gonna hire that guy. And eventually, I think it was almost a year later, finally there was a project that came in and we hired him, and he was here for quite a few years and became a CG soup eventually in the studio. So it happens. But if you don't apply, nobody will know. So it has to start on your end. Okay. So let's talk about that show reel. Now, just bearing in mind, if you are looking at doing something like production or finance or one of the non-artistic jobs, obviously then your CV or your resume is going to be a focus. But if you are doing art, then it's going to be a portfolio or a show reel. And if you are doing art that moves, like animation, the key is in the name, then you need a show reel. Sometimes I'm still shocked. When I go to some conferences, I will see animators that just have drawing, but they want to, like, oh, I have an animation reel, but here's a sketch.
Right.
And so I just want to really emphasize, it really should be a reel. It should be moving. Okay. So here's some tips for you. The goal is quality. People stress about how much they do or do not have on their reel, but it's really the quality and consistent quality too. It doesn't have to be like the most amazing thing in the world and then some really, really basic things like that's not helpful, because that doesn't tell us that you can consistently produce this level of quality. We need to see over about 5 pieces that consistency. So your two best pieces are going to be the first, wow them in the beginning and then leave them with a really strong feeling. It's the sandwich. It's a real sandwich. And then I would go for 5 pieces if you can, because that is roughly how many it takes to get that sense of consistency. 5 is a great number. It's achievable. They don't have to be long pieces, but just 5 sort of different kinds of things. In animation specifically, you'll want to show like weight and timing and
facial acting,
yeah,
and dramatic comedy,
yes,
different things
over those 5 pieces, but just consistent at the level of quality. And then only show work that's relevant to the role you're applying for. Now, if you are a generalist, which is very popular in visual effects and sometimes games, less so in feature animation, then your reel might have you might have surfacing and modeling and some lighting. But for most jobs, they're going to be specific and one discipline. So you need to make sure that your reel is that specific discipline. Everybody has a title card at the front that's got your name, your discipline, what you want to do, your job title, and then the icons at the bottom for the software that you use. That really helps us know if we would need to give you training when we bring you in, or you're already up to speed with Houdini, for example.
I'm writing that one down.
It's a bit, well, because a lot of people have the social media icons at the bottom of a page too. So it's very, very trendy to have the software icons. Yeah. Then throughout the reel, you can have a black space if you need to add descriptions. For example, if you are doing a group project, then you want to highlight the parts that you did. Otherwise, we think you did the whole thing. There was a time when right before people started doing this, there was a point where it got very testy here in visual effects animation. So this is many years ago, when we were hiring quite a few animators, and there were about 3 or 4 that had the same shot on their reel. And because it was like a fight scene for different characters, but we had no idea who did what. And it was really confusing when we asked people what they did, and it was confusing to them because they had been, just the nature of that team, they would work on it and then they'd go do something else, but somebody else would pick it up and change it. Whoa. So it was difficult to know who actually that wasn't their fault.
Yeah.
But just to have a description also at the bottom of, you did blocking for this character, did final animation for this character.
Or I did the background characters.
Yes. Yeah, that's really, really helpful, so that we're really clear that and we know what you did. So if your reel is super complex, you can attach a PDF just to explain more about what you did and how you did it. That's rare. I don't often see that at all. So the first 15 seconds are really important. You gotta really bring people in, just like anything else. Not that we have the ability to scroll through reels like an Instagram feed, but I think people generally have that sort of attention span. So just grab people up front so they will watch. but it doesn't need to be more than 2 minutes. And in fact, some reels are about 30 to 40 seconds, and that's fine as long as it's consistent with that quality and we can see what we need to see. Please, for the love of all that is holy, do not send a Dropbox link. Google Drive is problematic too. For example, we can't open Google Drives because of our security. So I have to send it to myself at home to look at it, which means I'm working off hours, which is not going to bode well for you. So would be in a bad mood. Then kidding. Then Dropbox can be really tricky for us to get in as well. So it's just, you want to make it as easy as possible for anybody that's looking at your work. You want to make it easy for them. An Instagram page is great to build a following, to build a brand, to show your friends, to show people casually your work. Absolutely have an Instagram page. However, in a professional setting, Instagram is going to limit your resolution and the aspect ratio. So that's where you want to have a more professional site for a professional situation when somebody's really looking at your work with professional eyes. So Instagram for fun, but not for pro. Then if you are doing animation modeling, especially environments, I think, well, and characters too, you might want to have a separate reel if you're planning on doing both hyper real, like visual effects or possibly games, and also feature animation where you've got very stylized characters, environments that are wobbly. They're two different things. So please have two different reels and don't just squash them together. That it's not helpful for who's looking at your reel. And if you are art or an asset, so you don't have necessarily a moving reel, really, you want to have more of a portfolio, turntables and stuff. But ArtStation is a great platform for that. Love ArtStation. This is not sponsored by ArtStation. Okay, so Vimeo is, I would say, what I see about 95% of the time is Vimeo, occasionally YouTube. And oh yes, keep your reel up to date. Okay, this is life advice, people. This is life advice. So when you go into a studio and you think, oh, I've got my dream job, well, I'm just gonna kick back here. I'll never have to make another reel as long as I live. But then the studio goes under and you've been working there for 10 years and you're like, ooh, I need to get my materials. And guess what? It doesn't exist anymore. You have to copy it off a DVD. So I highly recommend just get into the practice as soon as the show is over, as soon as you have the ability to get the material you worked on, get it and update your reel. Even if it's messy, it doesn't have to be tip-top shape, but just get the material onto your reel. You will thank me later. Okay, 40 seconds, 2 minutes, anywhere in there. But just do not stress out about the length of it. And please don't stress out about the music. We love having music, and lip sync, you've got to have sound for lip sync, absolutely. But a lot of times, except for animation reels, if it's an effects reel, a lot of times recruiters don't have the sound on.
Oh yeah.
If they're in an office, they probably have the sound off. So it's fun, but just don't stress yourself out over it. Okay. So just so we're clear, a CV is a resume. I had to have that explained to me when I moved to London. I didn't know that. So let's talk about resumes. Here's an example of a resume. It's festive. So Santa's looking for a job. Poor Santa. All right, now I want you to just take a look at this resume. Think of it the way a recruiter or a hiring person would look at it. So you get this resume. What do you think Santa is applying for? We can't tell what he does. We're not really sure what kind of art Santa does, but we do know that he speaks Spain. He speaks France. He's Santa and he can't spell Christmas, but he's a very motivated VFX artist. Now, this is not an exact CV that I received, but it's pretty dang close. Some interesting ones. I like color, obviously, a lot, but there's a lot of things that are an issue. Grammar and spelling are way up there. Plus the fact that this resume is not telling me anything about what Santa does, why he loves to do it, and not that much about what his experience has been. I just know where he's been, but I don't know what he was doing really. And then there's the skills matrix there. I don't know what that means. There's some bars, and Houdini is the tallest bar, but I don't know the relative scale. So is that he's 5%? Is that 100% Houdini? Maybe he invented Houdini. I can't tell. So this is really not a useful CV. Let's look at a useful CV. Ah, my eyes feel so much more relaxed. So now, granted, this is maybe a bit dull in comparison, but it's got Christmas trees. But you can see all the information you need to know. And just remember, your CV is where you're communicating information. Your reel or your portfolio is where you're communicating art. Yes, of course, they can blend in, but just try not to make the mistake of having your art scream so loudly on a CV that you can't hear the information, if that makes sense, right? So on the CV, we've got Santa, then right underneath it, effects artist. So that's what he does. He's effects. Great, now I know what he's applying for. And then right under that, you've got an about me paragraph. This is taking the place of cover letters. We don't really use cover letters anymore. They're a bit awkward. And I know people really don't like writing them. And a lot of us don't really like reading them. So we just sort of threw that out and just have a paragraph. I want to know why you love doing what you do. Why do you want to do effects? What's interesting about it to you? And what do you want to know more about in effects? This is an excellent point in your CV to talk about where you want to go next, because that's not going to be reflected in your reel necessarily or your experience. So this is your one little opportunity to say, I love learning about particle systems. So that's where you want to put that. Next is your work experience from present is at the top, and then work backwards. And then education is your foundation down there at the bottom. And then that sidebar is, and it doesn't have to be a column on the side, but it is a nice clean way to represent it, where you've got your contact information, including where your portfolio is, where your reel is, any of that is up at the top, so we know where to find you. Then you've got your skills, the relative skills, so what software you know, and some people even put their relative knowledge, so expert at Houdini or beginning level Blender, something like that. Then, but it's not necessary, just the software is good. And languages is helpful, but not necessary.
Does he still speak Spain?
He's learned to speak Spanish.
Oh, good.
But he speaks reindeer.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's fluent or I can't, it's across the room. Oh, proficient in reindeer. Yes,
Proficient.
okay.
Which is the best you can hope for.
Well, they don't really chat much. So okay, then finally at the bottom is hobbies that are relative. And I like to throw in one or two that are talking points, such as reindeer rescue, but so not necessarily relative, but it gives you something to talk about in the interview stage, which hopefully is what happens next. So one really important thing I want to talk about here for any of you interested in production. This is going to be about customer service for you. And anybody who's interested in leadership, really, customer service is a relative skill set and it's relative work experience. So if you have done charity work, if you've been customer support anywhere, if you have been a manager at Ralph's, wait, that's LA. What's the Chicago grocery store? Jewel. Yes. Yeah. If you've been, I forgot that one. If you've been the, like a manager at Jewel, you've led people, you've had the experience of having responsibility, and that's relevant. So just slide that in kind of towards the bottom, but it's still important to have there. Okay. And this is, yes, here we go. How to write a recruiter. Okay. So you got your reel, you got your CV. Now you want to reach out to studios. It can be really awkward knowing what to say to a recruiter. So here's a fantastic example. It's short, it's to the point, it's polite, tells you everything you need to know. Thanks for connecting. I'm just graduated. I'll be available here. Here's my work. If you have time, I'd love feedback. That's it. Now, I love this kind of, because I don't feel obligated that I have to get back to you today. So I will look at the reel, but I don't feel like you're pressuring me that I've got to, I need to know right now, which that stresses me out. But it's just, it puts you on my radar, and that's what you want to do. So can anyone else?
Did we lose?
Oh, did we lose you? Can you guys still?
I can still see your PowerPoint.
So can I.
Maybe,
Okay.
maybe Theo can't see it. We'll have a recap, Theo.
We will, and these relative slides with the tips on it, I will send to you, so they will be distributed, so you can see the top tips later. You're welcome. Okay, so this is a great way to write a recruiter. And I would say the other thing that people stress out about is how often to write a recruiter, especially after an interview or after any sort of connection. Like, how often can you bother them before they get upset? So essentially, if you have talked about a job, then you want to follow up roughly every 2 weeks, unless another time period has been specified. If you are writing to somebody out of the blue, and especially if they write back and say, great, reel looks amazing, not hiring right now, but thanks for the connection, then check in with them 6 months maybe, or anytime you have news. Hey, I just want to let you know I got a job here and I'm really excited. Hearing that, I think that's amazing. It makes me feel happy that you're still working, you're still doing the thing you love.
I've updated my reel with new things.
Yeah, have a look. What do you think?
Yeah,
we love doing that. So so don't be afraid to do that. It's I actually think most people err on the side of not enough communication.
Yeah, it's a tricky balance.
It is. It's super tricky.
But this is a good communication for any artist you're reaching out to, not even in recruiter, of course, but
yeah.
I
mean, it's just a great template so that you can remember to keep it polite, really short, and to the point. It doesn't have to be fluffy. You don't have to fill it with niceties. So It's fine. Okay, so most studios have a job alert, and that is going to look something like this. When you go to dneg.com careers, you will see this. And then over here in the corner, there's a sign up for job alerts. So you just fill out a form so that you're telling it what job you want to know about. And then as soon as that goes up onto the website, it emails you. So you're the first to know. That way you don't have to keep emailing the recruiters. Are you hiring it? Are you hiring it? It will tell you. You'll be the first to know. So that's and almost all studios have something like that now. So which is super handy. And the most important thing, is don't give up. Don't stop believing. When you,
I'll just be back here.
I know it's going to be in all of our heads the rest of the day. So you are going to be applying for jobs. You're going to be applying for a lot of jobs. And I just want to encourage you to not take it personally, which takes practice. Because either you might get a rejection letter or you might get ghosted, and you're going to feel like, oh, they don't like me. They don't like my work. I'm not good enough. And I want you to remember that's not necessarily true. It's not about you. It's very possible that the job went away, the project went away, because they're not going to call you up and say, yeah, I see you applied for a job. Just want to let you know that, yeah, we lost the bid on that show. And so, yeah, I mean, that's just not going to happen. So you will never know. It's just, you won't hear anything. And sometimes it's timing. Maybe they're really interested in you, but you're not available till April and they need somebody on Monday. So there's so many factors that don't have anything to do with you or your situation at all. So just try to remember, let yourself have a pity party, sure, for like one tiny second, and then move on and just keep applying. So the more you do it, the easier it will be for you to just get into the habit, because somewhere out there is a job that matches you perfectly, because everything you have to offer is unique. It's uniquely you. It's your vision of how you see the world. And we want to work with people that are unique. If we worked with everybody that was a cookie cutter, then it would be pretty boring output. So somewhere is that job that needs your uniqueness. So don't give up.
Thank you so much. I love that so much. We have a question in the chat. Do you mind if they go off mute?
Oh, please.
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
Kennedy, please share your question with us.
Hello, can you all hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Kennedy.
Okay. Hi. My question was regarding like an application. Say that you applied for a job or whatever, an internship, you didn't get it. Is it ever okay to follow up asking for feedback regarding why you didn't get it, or just like what could have been stronger in my application?
Absolutely. I love seeing this. I love when people say, thanks for letting me know that I didn't get this position. I would love to hear more about what I could do better, or any feedback that you might have on my application would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, there's always I mean, the way you just said it just now, it's like the most polite way of, and of course somebody's going to be like, oh, sure, of course, yeah, and they'll give you a quick response. So yeah.
Yes. So I recommend doing that. I think it helps you, especially in any creative industry, especially it helps you take feedback.
Yeah.
And I think we could all be better at taking feedback, because it's just, it goes against human nature entirely. So I think practicing that is a really, really good thing to do.
Yeah.
And I think it's very useful to ask for it. I would say depending on the company, some companies are not invested in that practice. So you might not hear back. So be prepared for that. But if you do hear back, then in my opinion, the value of that company goes up exponentially. If they care enough to give you that feedback, then that means they care about their employees and prospective employees. Thanks for asking, Kennedy.
Thank you, Kennedy.
Yes, thank you for answering the question. Thank you so much.
All right, I have another question. We had some students fill out some questions beforehand, and I'm going to ask one. This person said, I've heard many entry-level positions are often uncredited or unpaid. Are there other entry points that offer paid hours and or credit?
So I know that speaking for the studios that I've worked at, it is pretty much illegal to have a position where you're working and not getting paid. So in fact, in London, we're audited because we do have sort of like bring your kid to work day things. So they're teenagers, so they can't work, and we're audited on what they do. They can't touch anything that's even remotely close to being work. So it's very restricted. And my experience at Disney was the same thing.
Always a stipend of some sort.
Some kind, yeah. Yes.
Not an actual, wage.
Yes, I think it's true. I would say for like freelancers that you will certainly get can you just do this for exposure? And I get that. I think most artists are very, very, very much against that practice because it instantly devalues you. If you're willing to give it away for free, why would anybody pay for it?
Right. And you want to be leery of those kinds of spec deals anyway, because you've worked really hard at your craft and you want to make sure somebody values it, so
yeah. And from my experience, anybody who wants something done for exposure is also an extremely difficult client.
Yes,
it's funny when people pay for things, they're a lot more clear about what they want, and when they don't pay for them, they're much less clear, which means you'll go round and round and round again. Oh, I don't like it. I don't know what I want, but I'll know it when I see it. That sort of thing.
Yeah. And I bet you both of us are knowing this from experience.
Yes.
Because I will admit that when I was like a young graphic designer, I did a ton of spec work, and it never paid off.
Yes, same with photography. Just like, I'll just do this for fun, and it suddenly became not fun.
Yeah.
Funny how that works. But the credits, I want to let you know something about credits that is a bit funky, the way that the end credits work. So, when you go into a movie and most people leave as soon as the end credits start to roll. Anybody ever stay? Are you aware how long the end credits are? I know, like we always do, because like either we're in it or our friends are in it, so like I'm always staying till the end. But I think they were getting up to 20 minutes of end credits, so that's a long amount of time. 20 minutes for people's names. That's because there's lots and lots and hundreds of people working on movies, especially a summer blockbuster type of movie. So what was happening is the cinema owners, because there's so long credits, they can't show as many films. The extra 20 minutes over the course of an entire day, you lose an exhibition of the show. So they're losing money. So they started putting a limit on how long end credits could be. So they finally wised up and stopped doing them in a single column in the middle. So now it's like block text. Like, good luck trying to find your name. It's not even sorted alphabetically. So it's a bit of a mess now, but at least more names can be on there. So that got really funky. And in visual effects, I know plenty of people that have worked so hard and missed the births of their children and didn't get their name on a film. However, you really want to have your name on the end credit. It's so satisfying. But for employees, they will look on IMDb. Yeah. So, which you can get, just your producer will sign off on that and get your name on IMDb. Because, like, I am not gonna go and rent on Netflix a Marvel movie and sit through the 20 minutes of end credits to find out if you really did that modeling job. I'm just gonna go to IMDb. So that's where it's more important for the recruiters, but it's the satisfaction of having your name on the movie. I understand. So that's the thing about visual effects that's kind of quirky. I would say feature animation is much, much better because people tend to work on those films longer, but even still, there's usually a cutoff. For example, it might be 4 weeks. If you've worked less than 4 weeks on a film, then maybe you don't get the credit because they have to draw the line somewhere. So just wanted to let you know, because a lot of people don't know about the credits thing.
Yeah.
Just assume that I worked on it, I get a credit. It's a bit more complicated than that. Okay. What else? Come on. Give us a hard question.
Thanks for saying that. So both of you, in some respects, have worked freelance, right? Can you share with us a little bit about, what was your process? Ken talked about doing spec work, right? So, what was the process of fine-tuning how you run your business as a freelancer?
Yeah, I mean, if you are not an entrepreneurial person, it's difficult. Well, it's not that difficult. Like, you can just be a freelance animator, for instance, and just go contract for contract and work. So you're not really running a business so much. Usually in the feature film world, if you're freelance, you don't have to you are invoicing your client. So that's about the most you have to do, is write an invoice. And then you have to deal with your own taxes that throughout the year, which is the two difficult things. If you plan on being like a career freelancer or have your own business that people come to you, then you really have to be like good at, client database relations and your billing and your accounting and all the things that kind of go into a business you still have to do. So it just depends on what your vision for yourself as an independent artist is. Is it an independent artist that is like a gun for hire and just keeps going from feature to feature, or do you really want to have like your own little studio? And that's when you really have to be a business person.
Yeah. Yes. To that, because most of my work has been for a company. I think the freelancing that I would say that I did was more in the acting world.
Right.
So that was very, very early. It was when I was in my 20s, and I'm a terrible business person. So I was just not good. I wish I knew 1/10 of the stuff that I've just told you when I was in my 20s. So, yeah, I just wasn't.
Yeah. I don't know. I have like knowledge of like payroll taxes in Illinois that I don't really need to have, and I wish I didn't have.
Yeah.
But I do, because I had to do it.
Yeah. I think I saw a question about production pop up.
Yes. Nestor, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Hi, Nestor.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, pretty good.
Yeah. So I was pursuing an MFA in creative producing. I do have a background in writing, directing, and I've done animation as well.
Cool.
So I just wanted to know, is it possible to start out, at an animation company and kind of work up towards either becoming a director, producer? Would that be possible?
Absolutely. Yes, that is a really great path, actually. So the production path in an animation company is production assistant to production coordinator to production supervisor. So essentially you are starting within a department, because most animation studios are very departmentalized, with the exception of small boutique studios where everybody does everything. So
it's fun.
And it is fun, and you learn a lot quickly. If you go into a larger studio, it is by department, and each department will have a production assistant who starts with sort of the basics, like making sure the screening room is ready for dailies. And then the coordinator is the next level of responsibility, which could be things like taking notes during dailies. Then the department supervisor that's the step where you've got someone that is talking to the main producer about if the shots are on time and on budget, and more than likely, many are not, what we're going to do. What is the plan to get, like, if this one's going to take 2 more weeks, then how are we going to make up that time? We'll get this one in here because I think we can do that one faster. And so you sort of Tetris everything together. So that's when that starts happening. So then as you go up from the department supervisor to production manager and digital producer, then it's that person's responsibility is doing more and more overseeing of bigger pieces of the movie, from departments to front end, back end, to whole thing client side, whole thing for globally, etc. The different ways that it gets kind of divided to make it manageable for you to manage. So it's a beautiful, very well structured career path that most big studios, it's pretty consistent. And it's because there's usually a lot, even though it's a pyramid, there's not very many at the top, but a lot of people come in, and I think a lot of people really enjoy it. So for a while, it's long hours, I'm going to warn you.
It'll beat you down.
It can. So so I would say absolutely go for it. For the directing aspect to it, that's a little bit different because you're going on to the creative track, but there is huge amount of value in understanding how, from a production standpoint, how to put it together on time and on budget. That's really going to help you and inform you for your directing career.
And to add to that, in animation, directors tend to come out of the story department. They are career-long storyboard artists. They're people that understand the structure of a film, of a story. And then along the way, they have learned how all the other departments come together into a finished product. And that's I don't know, that's the tendency. It's not always. Like on That Christmas, the director was a former colleague of mine, the animator from DreamWorks. So it can happen that they come from other departments, but the tendency is from story.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Good luck, Nestor. Any more questions?
Okay, I do have a question. It says, can you share a little bit about what are the requirements for the arts department?
It's funny. I mean, I don't know if you want to explain, because it is not often that we do the full production. We are what's considered a vendor studio often, where a production company will come to us with the concepts, and we're the ones who make it. So it is only like on films like Garfield or maybe Angry Birds, where we had a stake in the production, that we have an art department where we're doing production art, we're doing character design, we're doing, it's kind of the back end stuff. I don't know if you have any more insight on that. But.
Yeah, it's you will find, I think, right now, the business model often for studios is there's a client studio and a vendor studio. And that is due to global production where, such as with us, with DNEG Animation, we are producing films in at least 3 locations at any given time. And it's not that, like in visual effects, it can be divided by sequence for consistency's sake. Right. But we don't work that way. Like the animation team on Nimona was both in, well, in also a little bit in Mumbai, wasn't it? A little bit?
Oh, a lot in Mumbai,
Yeah, and Montreal,
yeah,
and London concurrently. So this is just the way that a lot of business models are changing. So that's the vendor studio is all over the world, and then there's a client studio that's like 5 people in a closet somewhere. So I know that's what it feels like to us. So and then they're coming up with the ideas, and often they will come up with the art. So that's where the high-end art department will be, is with the client. Right. So that's going to be the Sony, the Paramount,
Warner Brothers,
yeah,
the Netflix,
yeah. Occasionally we do, like Angry Birds 3, we did have a chance to do our art. Mm-hmm. And we love that.
Yeah, story art and everything. It's great.
It's so much fun because that's a very creative part. I know.
Scratch recordings for voices.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a creative part. So we love that. And we will absolutely grab onto that any chance we get. But the requirements for being an artist and applying for an art department, it is all about your portfolio. And I think, like, from what I've seen, I still really, really respect heavy duty fine art stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like heavy duty, like plein air oil painting, and lots of figurative painting and drawing, and then your own stylistic stuff. But I mean, you've got to really bring in a lot of work showing the classicals up to through your own imagination, because obviously you don't want to just repaint sunflowers.
And the tools are like, they can be taught. Like if you're worried, like, yeah, I'm a fine artist, but I don't know Procreate or Photoshop or whatever it is, you can learn that. It's the art education that's the important part.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think that's all the questions we have today.
Well, thank you all so very much for joining us today. We really appreciate your taking your time out of your morning in Chicago to join us here as the sun goes down on what is now a bit of a foggy London afternoon.
Thank you so much. Everyone in the comments is like, thanks, you all. I appreciate the advice.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, everyone. Enjoy your day. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.